Welcome to this virtual worship service. I am Aaliyah Shimbro, this year's student minister with the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock. This congregation is ministered to by the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, the Reverend Jennifer Brower, and the Reverend Jay Brooks. Though we remain physically distant to preserve public health and shield those most vulnerable among us from illness, and though we may come to this community seeking, celebrating, or simply surviving, we are still a deeply connected religious people. We shape our stories together. We grow together, and we work to nurture and support each other. We celebrate our joys, soothe our sorrows, offer our gratitude, lean into generosity, and lift up love as a beacon in each of our lives. A vital part of what helps us to survive. Today's virtual worship service falls on Mother's Day and recognizes and celebrates the labor and love of mothers, mamas, grandmas, and caregivers of many names and genders. We hold the complexity of this holiday, knowing its associations and emotions will not be the same for all of us, but trusting that in this community of care, we can make enough room to hold each other through this multiplicity. Whatever you bring to this day, we welcome and invite you in to tend to your spirit with us. We hope you will find something in this service that meets you where you are, and much that offers you paths forward in community. As you're moved, we invite you to move, to dance, to sing along with the words on your screen, and engage with this service in whatever way makes you feel most connected, and which celebrates and sustains your spirit. If you feel connected to some of what you experience in this or other services, we hope you will consider joining us at Zoom Coffee Hour or connecting with other programming, including this afternoon's Women's Group Mother's Day Luncheon. More events can be found through our website's calendar. We are so glad and so grateful that you have chosen to join us today to co-create this sacred space together. Let us worship.
Co-Regulation by Reverend Elizabeth Mount. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another, generation to generation. We awaken to the dawn and fall asleep in the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. In this spirit, let us worship together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, this do we affirm and covenant with each other.
In religious community, we share our joys and our triumphs, our sorrows and our broken places. In this circle of care, we make space for the complexity of life, the myriad experiences that bless and break our hearts. The truth of human experience dictates that on any given day, we each come to the table with hearts in different places. It is especially so on this day, invented to honor women who nurture. In this circle of care, we honor the truth that mothering is not and never will be quantified in one single descriptor. Mothering can be elusive or infuriating, fulfilling or confusing, commonplace or triumphant. It exists in the everyday experiences of each person. There is no human being that is not connected or disconnected from a mother. And so we honor the complexity of experience, writ large in flowered platitudes, but here in this space, laid bare, honoring the truth in each of our hearts. There is room for all in this circle. If you have carried a child or children, whether or not they came to be born, we see you. If you have fervently wished to do so, and circumstances of fate made that impossible, we see you. If you love children we cannot see, whether because of death or estrangement or incarceration, we see you. If you never wanted to be a mother, we see you. If you are happy to mother other people's children as an educator, an auntie, a foster parent, or a caregiver with no formal title, we see you. If your mother hurt you, physically or emotionally, we see you. If you had no mother at all, we see you. If your mother is or was your best friend, we see you. If your gender says you are not a mother, and yet you take on the role of nurturer, we see you. If you wonder whether your mothering has been enough, we see you. And if yours is a different truth altogether, we honor your unspoken story. There is room for all in this circle. May it be so, today and always.
As we celebrate Mother's Day today, we also recognize those mothers, caregivers, and children who are not among us, including those who are separated families and communities by incarceration. Donations made today will go to Black Mamas Bailout, a campaign of the National Bailout Collective to bail out Black mamas and caregivers from jails and migrant detention centers across the country every year before Mother's Day. The term mama encompasses all Black women and femmes that self-identify as a mama, including cis and trans women, femmes, gender non-conforming people, and non-binary folks who parent and care for their families and communities in various traditional and non-traditional ways. 60% of people in local women's jails have not even been convicted of a crime and are awaiting trial, and 80% of them are parents. These Black women, femmes, and gender non-conforming folks, Black mamas and caregivers, are often without support or a safety net when they are condemned to a cage. There is no one to come for them. This especially rings true for our transgender and gender non-conforming siblings who face further harm and marginalization due to pervasive profiling, targeting, criminalization, and structural exclusion from housing, employment, and medical care, and that leads to increased rates of arrest and incarceration. Recognizing the reality that Black women and femmes bear the brunt of incarceration, both as the fastest growing population of people incarcerated in jails and prisons over the past 50 years, and as caregivers and space holders for their families and communities. The National Bailout Collective is committed to getting people free through bailouts, advocacy, and leadership development. To learn more, you can visit their website at www.nationalbailout.org. There are 3 ways to donate: by sending a text, by using the donate link on the UUCSR website, be sure to choose special collection, or through PayPal.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is
We Unitarian Universalists are a people of tradition, a living tradition that carries on through the generations of our movement, is shaped and changed in the hearts of individuals, is birthed in the homes of families, and cared for in our communities and congregations. In the spirit of this tradition, and in true UU fashion, today I am choosing to break with tradition, but just a little. Traditionally, on Mother's Day, we UUs speak of the origins of this holiday, how it took on its particular hallmark flavor, recognizable to us today, much to the frustration and disappointment of Anna Jarvis, a Methodist woman who is credited as the founder of this tradition of celebrating Mother's Day. Mother's Day has been officially recognized in the US since 1914, thanks to the movement Anna Jarvis successfully led, inspired by her own mother. Traditionally, on Mother's Day, we also lift up and celebrate the vision and efforts of Julia Ward Howe, one of our Unitarian and abolitionist ancestors, who in 1870, just 6 years after Jarvis was born, wrote what is known today as the Mother's Day Proclamation, in which she called for disarmament, international solidarity among women, and for a Women's Peace Congress to be gathered, first to bewail and commemorate the dead, and then to solemnly take counsel with each other as the means thereby the great human family can live in peace. This is important history, valuable tradition. But I'm breaking with the tradition of telling these historical stories at length today because we too are living in a historical moment, and as admirable as these women might be, theirs are not the stories that are foremost on my heart today. Have you seen those signs which feature masked healthcare workers and essential workers, and they say, "Not all superheroes wear capes"? Our healthcare and grocery workers and all those workers who have endured throughout this pandemic, often women and often parents, who return to work day after day to support people who are sick and families who are grieving and all of us who need food to eat. Those who work in order to help all of us to survive this world at an incredible risk to themselves and their families, they deserve to be celebrated. I don't think it's inappropriate to compare them to superheroes, but I do think that often we too easily make heroes and villains of people, rather than facing their very ordinary courage and choices, which any one of us could make, but that these people in particular did and do and would do again. And I think this goes for all the moms and mamas and amas and parents and grandparents and caregivers too. Today and every day, I want to celebrate the ordinary, the very ordinary courage and compassion it takes to raise children. Your ordinary choices to love and support your children as best you are able, to stick with it through the hardest times, and to celebrate the many milestones. I want to lift up the heroism of those communities who support parents and caregivers and care for their children. Today, I want to celebrate all those who believe that whatever your relation, love is what makes a family, and who live out those beliefs in big and small ways. Today, we hold the complexity of the many valid emotional responses on this day that sets out to celebrate connections between generations, and which historically lifts up women taking this role of mother to be worthy of celebration. Whatever the emotional experience you find yourself having today, I hope you will agree with me that every day women deserve to be celebrated. Women should be celebrated whether they choose to become mothers or not, whether they are able or wish to bear children or not, whether they're cis or trans, queer or straight, whether they believe they're good enough or not. Today and every day, mothers deserve to be celebrated, whether they are birth mothers or drag mothers or godmothers or grandmothers, whether they are single or partnered, are viewed as naturally good mothers or mothers who are still figuring it out. All people who parent, who freely offer love and care, and who nurture and guide their children and loved ones are deserving of celebration today. So whatever your job, whatever your familial role, if you give and teach love and offer care and nurture to your family, we celebrate you today. Not for being somehow superhuman or extraordinary, but for your full humanity and ordinary dedication to giving and growing in this world. Too often, it seems to me, the title of mother is afforded to those whose work is uncompensated and underappreciated. For many folks, this day should be a springboard to acknowledging the labor of those who mother. This holiday might be a way to invite gratitude to the generations that came before, including all the people who did the work of caring and carrying, rearing and raising, who taught and tolerated and chose and comforted, who held love in their hearts and hope in their hands, and who shared that legacy with their children, who passed those gifts down to their children, and who are still passing those gifts down today. This day can also be a day of disconnect, of remembering difficulty, estrangement, separation, and difference that is not celebrated. It can be tricky gender territory for those who may feel this title of mother obscures their full humanity, or some who might feel that this title is one they cannot live up to or do not deserve. Many people parent and nurture in ways that don't fit the mold of mother as it has been traditionally gendered and defined. But they nonetheless deserve to be celebrated for their care and their courage each and every day. Today, we make space to acknowledge all these experiences and the many more not named, to remember those who mother or are mothered in complexity. It should be noted that this year we mark this holiday from within a pandemic context where parents of many genders and children of formal and informal ties have been caregiving full-time on top of working overtime. We should note this time of struggle as one when many people have made profound sacrifices each day to support their families and their communities. To those who are overwhelmed and underappreciated today, may you find ways to be held and to hold on. I wish for you gentleness and offer you gratitude, knowing that these are the least that you deserve. And on this precious day, we must also recognize those for whom this is a day full of grief. And too many families today are learning how to make do through the loss of people they could not imagine living without. Many know the pain of love's absence because they have experienced it through disconnection, whether through death, incarceration, dementia, addiction, or physical distance. And still, we wish that you may come to know you are not alone in that pain. We wish for you love that endures through grief and joins you with all those who mourn. And today may also be a day of joy, a day of gratitude, of happy memories and renewed connections. And we have such cause to celebrate, such joy, to dance and sing and laugh. Today, I guarantee someone is hugging their mother for the first time, or their first time in a year or years, and it is magical. Someone is holding their child for the first time, or for the first time in a year or years, and it is mystical. Someone is celebrating an adoption and is feeling swept into this great mystery of how miraculously and exquisitely love blooms from the smallest seed. Today is a precious day. This day is precious in its complexity, and we might even call this precious complexity sacred. Today, we celebrate how extraordinary and extravagant our very ordinary care and connections can be. On this precious day, we acknowledge grief, but we also turn towards gratitude. We appreciate the individuals and the families and remember that communities too can take on a mothering role. In this appreciation, we might make space to do a little forgiving for how we fall short of superhuman in our energies, in our care, in our attention, and even in our intentions at times. We remember that none of us gives or receives care in a vacuum, that each of us is shaped through our experiences, and that all of us are capable of falling short. Just as we are capable of seeking forgiveness and beginning again when we have lost our way. On this day, and on every day, we can choose to lift up that potential to forgive and to be forgiven, and to lean into the possibilities of beginning anew. For all who mother, today and every day, for all who nurture in care and complexity, may you be sustained and celebrated, and may your love endure and inspire through the next generations. May it be so, and may we make it so. Amen. For all the mothers and mother figures, the grandmothers, aunts, and extended family members who mother, the soon-to-be mothers, the wish they were mothers, the never wanted to be mothers, the it's complicated mothers, the birth mothers, foster mothers, adoptive mothers, stepmothers, the used-to-be dad mothers, and more than one mom mothers, the single mothers, separated mothers, stay-at-home mothers, unhoused mothers, incarcerated mothers, the grieving mothers, those who grieve their mothers, and those whose grief is complex, for all the communities that mother, and for all who depend on the Great Mother. You are held and beloved.